You've heard the term a million times, right? Disruptive innovation. It gets thrown around in boardrooms, tech blogs, everywhere. It's kind of become this catch-all phrase for anything new and shiny. But what if I told you that most of us, most of the time, are using it completely wrong? Well, today, we're going to cut through all that buzz and get to the true, and honestly, way more interesting meaning of disruption.
Okay, so let's just dive right into this. And we're going to start with something that might actually be a little surprising, by challenging one of the most popular examples people use when they talk about this stuff.
Yep, you heard that right. According to Clayton Christensen, the guy who literally wrote the book on this, Uber doesn't fit the model. See, it didn't start by targeting the low end of the taxi market or by creating a brand new market of people who never took cabs. It launched in a major city, San Francisco, and went straight head-to-head with the taxi industry. It was a revolutionary new service, for sure, but a disruption in the classic sense? Nope.
And that is the big question, isn't it? If the poster child for disruption isn't actually disruptive, then what is? To figure that out, we've got to go back to the beginning. To really get this, we need to understand the core problem Clayton Christensen was trying to solve in the first place. He wasn't just trying to describe new gadgets. He was obsessed with this question of why successful, really well-managed companies could just suddenly get wiped out by newcomers. The common answer, the easy answer, is what Christensen called the technology mudslide hypothesis. It's a simple idea. Big companies get fat and happy, they stop paying attention to new tech, and then they get left in the dust. It's a nice, simple story. But here's the thing. It's a story that just doesn't hold up to reality. The research shows that in most cases, these big established companies are perfectly aware of the new technologies. They don't fail because they're clueless. They fail for a much stranger, more counterintuitive reason. So here's the critical point, the part that's so hard to wrap your head around. Successful companies often fail precisely because they practice good management. I mean, think about it. They listen to their best customers, who just want better versions of the products they already have. They focus on what's most profitable, and that new kind of clunky, low-margin innovation, it just doesn't make any business sense for them to chase, until, of course, it's way too late.
And this brings us right to the heart of the whole theory. True disruption isn't just about a brand new whiz-bang technology. It's about a new business model that finds a totally new kind of customer, usually one that the big established players are more than happy to ignore.
So let's look at these two types side by side. On the one hand, you've got sustaining innovation. This is what big companies are amazing at. Think about your phone getting a slightly better camera every single year. But on the other hand, you have disruptive innovation, which starts off by offering something totally different. Maybe it's way cheaper or simpler or more convenient to a group of customers that everyone else has overlooked.
What's really fascinating here is that disruption isn't some one-size-fits-all process. Christensen actually identified two main paths that newcomers can take to get their foot in the door.
So, low-end disruption is all about serving the least profitable customers of the big companies with a cheaper, good enough product. New market disruption, though, is different. It's about turning non-consumers into consumers. It's for people who weren't even buying the old product at all.
And this graph, this is the classic playbook for low-end disruption. See how the disruptor starts way down at the bottom, serving customers with simple needs? The big, established companies, they just ignore them and keep climbing up market to serve their more demanding, more profitable customers. But the disruptor keeps getting better and better, moving up that performance curve until, one day, it's good enough for everybody. And by then, the established company has nowhere left to go.
Okay, so that's the theory. But let's look at some real-world examples to make this a little more concrete and see how this pattern actually plays out across different industries.
And hey, this isn't just some modern tech thing. Just look at the bicycle. The penny farthing on the left was this high-performance machine, basically for athletic young men only. But then the Rover safety bicycle comes along. It's safer, it's easier, it's simpler. It wasn't better for an expert, but it created a massive new market of casual riders, women, older people who could have never used a penny farthing. That's a perfect example of new market disruption.
And we see this pattern over and over again. Wikipedia wasn't nearly as scholarly as a set of Britannica encyclopedias at first, but it was free and you could access it instantly. The first digital cameras, the pictures were terrible compared to film, but man, they were convenient. Smartphones weren't as good as a dedicated PDA for a business exec, but they were good enough and put a powerful computer in everyone's pocket.
This comparison really drives the point home. Mini steel mills are the classic low-end disruption. They couldn't make high-quality steel, so they started with cheap rebar, a market the big mills couldn't care less about. The first car, on the other hand, was a luxury toy for the rich. It wasn't disrupting the horse and buggy for the average person. It was a revolutionary technology for sure, but it wasn't disruptive.
Now, to get the full picture here, we have to be honest and acknowledge that the theory itself, it's not perfect. Like any really powerful idea, it's been debated and questioned over the years.
So critics will point out that some companies that were supposed to be victims of disruption, like US Steel, are still around and kicking. Others argue the theory has been stretched way too thin, applied to everything from education to politics, where maybe it doesn't quite fit. And a really important critique is that this whole gospel of innovation can sometimes make us forget the real-world social costs, like the job losses that come with these massive industrial shifts.
So after unpacking the theory, looking at the examples, and even the criticisms, what should we really remember about disruptive innovation? What's the one core idea that really holds true?
And for me, it really comes down to this. This quote from the entrepreneur Chris Dixon just perfectly captures the whole essence of it. True disruption doesn't show up on day one looking like a world beater. It starts small, it looks simple, maybe even a little bit silly. It's the thing that all the serious people dismiss as just a toy, right before it changes everything.